just a minute ago. We are so fortunate to be in these beautiful environments for our meetup today, and we're so appreciative of our hosts. So if everyone could give lots of love to our hosts today. April. And I'm Carrie Sigmund. If I have not met you guys yet, I look forward to. And what we're going to do is I'm just going to go through a quick introduction, and then I'll turn it over to Andy to provide our mini keynote. So I'm going to share my screen real quick. Andy or Dana, at any time, if you guys want to unmute to ask a question or anything like that, please do. All right. I don't know why I need to get it big. I need to go. I'm working on all kinds of windows over here, y'all. Okay, here we go. So, welcome. Hopefully you were able to get on the Wi-Fi. If not, your host can help you do that. But we will be working off of our web page today. So that's the URL. If you want to jot it down somewhere, it's also in the emails I've been sending you. But that will get you to the agendas for today that we'll be working off of. Okay. And so why we're here is just real general to build collaboration and inspire our students to love to read. There's a difference between reading for an assignment versus loving to read. And at the Fall Collaborative, people mentioned that of the SLAE standards, which one are you interested in sharing more about? And guess which one was number one? This one. So worked with Tammy, and we said, well, let's do it right around Valentine's Day. So I'm sure you guys don't miss a week or a day during Valentine's week too much from class. All right, here again is that bit.ly. If you guys mark that again so you can stay connected. The resources from today plus the presentations or the Spark sessions that people provide will be linked in there. So you can always get back to them after today. And if you're on social media, if you guys will use those hashtags, that would be wonderful. For our love notes, this is something that we thought would be fun. All the people that put our brains together. Hopefully you guys think this is fun. But hosts, if you'll just take a minute to show where the love notes are and what we're asking everybody to do before they leave today. So it can be at any point during our meetup. If you'll fill out a love note and you'll just share what you love about something that someone shared today, about how they're building the role of reading in their school. So it can be anyone here today. All right. And we will fill those out and exchange them at the end of our session. We'll also complete a feedback form at the very end. That's also how we'll collect like names of who's here today. Didn't know whether to do it anonymous or not, but please know that if you say something that needs improvement, please put it there so we do know to make improvements. Don't feel like it'll hurt my feelings or anything like that, okay? And big thanks to our hosts, Andy at Barrow, Tammy Privet from Barrow County, but she's the GLMA representative, and she's also over at Barrow Elementary today with Andy. Wonderful April Williams over here at Russell Middle School, and Marianne Sullivan from Clark Central High School, and some guy named Dana Sigmund, and he's just okay. Just joking. So thank you, Dana, for helping out. Also, our Spark Session presenters, who we love what they've put together, and they're going to share. So George Weber from Clark County, Tammy Privet, again from Barrow County, Jennifer Molina from Oconee, Katie Dare from, did I say Dare right?
Sure.
Dare, okay, good. Katie Dare from Oconee, Erin McElroy from Walton, Sarah Sapinski from Walton, and Carrie Hogan and Kat Mills from Clark. Spark Session hosts, if you look around, there's some flowers. Those are for you to take. So thank you for doing that for us. And we'd love that you guys are here. So please learn, lead, share, and take what you learned today or you get inspired by back to your schools and back to your school systems, because not all of the media specialists could be with us today. All right. So Andy's wonderful phrase is expect the miraculous. And with Dana and my children have gone through Barrow Elementary, and I have to say, you can expect the miraculous out of his media center. And so we were so fortunate that Andy said he would share with us today what his strategies are for empowering readers within and beyond walls. And so we are going to turn it over to Andy, but I did want to point this out. If you go to our agenda, you'll see a link that says Keynote Collaborative document. I can show you how to get to that. So if you're in your agenda, we're under this time frame. If you come down to the link to Keynote Collaborative document and Keynote slides, that will take you to this document. And we're asking that if you have a question or an idea or a suggestion that kind of piggybacks on what Andy's sharing, if you guys will put it in this document. Okay, so you put your name, your email, a question you might have, or a comment, a resource. And then if you're familiar with Google Docs, you can leave comments on what other people said. So that's a way we can communicate today and then afterwards about things that we might think during or after Andy's little keynote here. And if you need help with getting there, let me know. But we are going to turn it over to Andy, and I really hope you guys enjoy today. If you have any questions during it, feel free to email me, because I will check my email every once in a while. So Andy, I am going to stop sharing and turn it over to you.
All right. I'm going to get my slides shared, hopefully. All right. So today we're going to talk about how I empower readers within the walls of our school and beyond. And hopefully some of the ideas that I share will give you some inspiration to try some things in your school or spark conversations with people at your tables or back in your home districts. I always like to start off presentations by reminding all of us that we all are just working on it. Just like Andy Grammer sings in his song, Working on It, that we're all in different places. We're all trying everything we can possibly think of, and we do what we're able to do each year. We always have lots of things we're juggling in our heads that we want to try, and we just kind of have to pick and choose which of those we're going to implement each year. So I'm going to share a lot of things today in a short amount of time. So try not to be overwhelmed with anything, but just pick what might work for you. And this is my perspective. So if it doesn't match with what you experience in your school, then adjust things for what works for you. So I want to start with just a few quotes to kind of ground us in this idea of empowering readers. These are some professional readings that I've done over the past couple of years, and they've inspired some of the work that I do here in the library. So this passage comes from the book No More Reading for Junk, and it says, the central and most important goal of reading instruction is to foster the love of reading. Knowing how to read is not sufficient. And in Passionate Readers, Pernille Ripp writes, unless we make it our personal mission to inspire students to re-engage with reading, to fall in love with text and discovery, to be open to the possibility that they may be a reader after all, then we may as well not be teaching reading. And in Kids Deserve It by Todd Nessaloni and Adam Welcome, they say, students do not learn how to read, nor do they fall in love with reading from worksheets or by reading passages. They need to practice reading on their own with a book or story they've fallen in love with, not one that has been assigned to them. And the great Donalyn Miller in her book, Reading in the Wild, says, reading leveling systems provide teachers and librarians with one measure for making book recommendations and supporting students as they self-select books. But children shouldn't wear their reading levels like a badge and become defined by them. So all of those kind of grounding ideas from these professional readings kind of have led me to some guiding ideas for our library here at Barrow. One is that I want kids, when they come into our library, to have lots of choice. I want to be a person who defends choice for kids, knowing that they have lots of things they have to read for class, but I want them to also be able to walk into our library and be able to choose things that they want to read and be able to choose lots of other things that they want to do in the library beyond just reading. In our library, I want students to feel like they don't have limits, and that comes in many shapes. But one of those is that I don't limit kids to a certain number of books. I think every reader is different, and so kids check out what they need to read, what they're able to read, what they want to read. So for some readers, that might be 2 books, and for some readers, that might be 10 books. I want our collection to be a place where kids have windows into worlds that are very different from their own, but I want kids to also be able to see themselves in the books that are in our library. And I want our library to be a place where kids can connect, that they can connect and share beyond the walls of our school with the many kinds of technology that we have available to us. I want kids to feel like this isn't my library, that I'm the guardian of everything here, but that it's our library, that we create it together. What happens in here is a shared experience. David Lankes, in his book, Expect More, says that we should expect more than simply being consumers or users of the library. We should expect to be members, helping to shape the library itself. So I'm going to go into just a few of the things that we do here in our school. And one of them is just thinking about the collection. I know here at Barrow, we've been, our guests here today have been roaming around and looking at the collection and how it's shaped. But one of the things that is near and dear to my heart is our student book budget project that we do each year. And this project came from just noticing that there were a lot of kids coming into the library and wandering around and leaving the library with nothing because they weren't finding something they connected to. So I decided to create a project where kids had a budget that they worked with to purchase books for the library that they think kids would enjoy reading. And so every year, 3rd through 5th graders apply to be in this group, and they meet a couple of times a week for about a month and a half to complete this project. They create a survey of reading interest that we send out to all the kids in the school. They also go to lunch and recess and gather data using a Google form and iPads. All of that information is coming back to a spreadsheet so that we can analyze that and decide what are the top things that people are asking for. And then I send those goals that the students set to vendors who come and meet with the kids and show them some of the book products that they have from their company. And the kids create lists to match the goals that they've set. So we work with Capstone Press, Jim Boone, Brett from Gumdrop Books comes in, and we also are within walking distance of Avid Bookshop, which is our local independent bookshop. So we do a walking field trip there and meet with them. So the kids create thousands of dollars worth of books on their list, and then they have to reach a really hard decision because they know they have a budget and they can't spend past that budget. So they have hard conversations about what stays, what goes, and every year they always reference some of the conversations that they had with the students who they surveyed who really wanted a certain book in the library. When the books come in, they help unpack those books with the invoices. They inspect them just like we would inspect books to make sure they're all okay. And then they create displays of books for people to check out. And those books immediately get checked out and stay among the top checked out books of the school year. This project reminds me of a project I used to do in my classroom where we did a project called Find Yourself in a Book, and I wrote a grant where every month students each got $5 to spend on a book from Scholastic. And their goal was to go in search of a character that they connected with in some way. So I really didn't think about that until I was putting together the beginnings of this presentation, how this project really was rooted in stuff I was doing back in the classroom. Many of you have noticed, as you've been sitting here, that our library is genrefied. And this was a big decision that we made a few years ago. And it was based on just watching kids and what they were doing as they came into the library, and knowing that I was trying to teach lots of classes with no library aid, and watching kids roam around the library, not able to find the books that they were looking for. And when I was able to work with kids to find books, they were asking questions like, where are the sports books? Where are the scary books? So it was all categories of books. And I was spending all my time walking around saying, well, here's one. No, I don't like that one. Here's another one. No, not that one. Here's another one. When if I had just had everything together, that would have saved so much time for the students to get them what they needed, so that I could actually work with kids who had no idea what they wanted. So I really looked at what a lot of other people were doing. I read lots of blogs and articles about genreification. I started having conversations with possible volunteers who might help with the project. I talked with our principal, Ellen Sabatini, to talk about how long this might take and what it really would take to do it in the shortest amount of time. And then we launched into the project. We picked some genres for each section, for picture books, for chapter books, and for informational books, and started pulling books off the shelves one book at a time, and making a decision about every book and stacking it up in the stacks that it went with. And so with every book you take off the shelf, your anxiety, your blood pressure goes up and up and up. And with every book I kept thinking, what have I done? This is crazy. But it all worked out in the end. I really didn't change anything about the call numbers of books, because I knew that if this didn't work and we wanted to undo it, I didn't want it to create even more work for the undoing process, or for anyone who might come in the future. So all we did was added subcategories. So it really is just taking your library and breaking it into smaller chunks. So in Destiny, we set up categories for every one of the genres. And then once we have those stacks, we could just go through and scan every book in that stack into that subcategory, so that when you look in the catalog, you see the book and you see its location, and it still has its regular call number, and it's shelved on the shelf by a call number, but it's just within that historical fiction section or whatever it may be. We also designed spine labels to go on all of the books, and signs that matched those spine labels to put on the top, so that kids could walk around and visually see where the different books are. And now we're working on going through and numbering all of our series. So there's always some sort of project that we're working on. There's some of the genres at this point that I'm already thinking about changing now that we're a few years into this. Some of them I want to break up a little more. Some of them you see aren't really working the way you thought. But that's the beauty of this kind of system, is you can tailor it for how kids are asking for books, and what you think is going to get those books into readers' hands. A lot of you saw as you came in, our checkout station up at the front. So another way kids take ownership of our collection is that they do check themselves in, and they check themselves out in 2nd through 5th grade. And then our kindergarten and 1st grade have a little more assistance with that. This is a project that actually Tanya, who's here, did several years ago, started with a collaboration with Avid Bookshop that I kind of adopted too. But it's just creating shelf talkers in the library, where we connected with Avid. We connected with them over Skype. I think Tanya had them actually come in, and they talked about how they write the little talkers that they put onto the shelves in the bookstore. And so kids were able to do that for the library as well. When we were doing it, we were putting a big display up at the front of the library so that those books could kind of be on display for people to see. And they, of course, got checked out pretty quickly when kids saw other people's recommendations. So this section is just thinking about how we connect with books that we love. I'm already running out of time. So one thing that I did a couple of years ago was really thought about changing the way that I do orientation at the beginning of the year. Really thinking about that's the first time that I see kids. And yes, there are lots of rules and there are lots of procedures and there are lots of ways the library works. But I really stepped back and thought, what is the message that I want to send to kids with the very first words that come out of my mouth? So we really I thought more about, the heart of orientation, that we really are trying to establish this reading community from the very beginning of the school year. So I asked teachers to record Flipgrid videos introducing themselves, and a piece of that was to have them share their favorite books that they read that kids would recognize. And I used those in the orientations to kind of be a spark to show kids that their teachers are reading just like they are. We also, instead of talking about how you use a shelf marker and all those procedural things, we just launched into looking at books and doing book tastings and tasting the different genres. The first year, I kind of just put books out on a table in a basket by genre. But this past year, I had students actually sit at the shelves where the genres are and then rotate chairs around the library. And that made a huge impact on how kids use the library later on, because they made a connection with where that section was in the library, that they found things they liked there. And I saw more and more kids go back to those sections instead of just sitting at the computer typing in random words. One thing that I've been doing, I actually did this today, is doing personal shopping for readers. I have kids fill out a survey about their reading interest and just some really quirky questions too, like if you could be someone else for a day, who would it be and why? Would you rather go on an adventure in the jungle or play with your friends outside? Things like that. So every answer that kids give me, it gives me a little taste of a kind of book that they might like. And then I go through and pull a personal stack of books for all of those students so that when they come back, the library has been curated for them so that it's not this overwhelming room with 10,000 books. They have a stack of 10 books they can focus on as a starting place. Most of the time, kids find several books in that stack that they want to read. Occasionally, they don't find any, and then we just back up and we make a new stack. Nikki Robertson, when she was in high school, she used her library assistant, her aide, to help do this on a much larger scale than what I'm doing. I tend to do this with small groups and especially kids who are having trouble finding books that they want to read as a way to get them into some books. A few years ago, Brad Gustafson and Jennifer Lagarde started a 30-second book talk challenge, and that was something that they were doing with adults. I adopted that as something that we do here at our school and have kids book talk a book in 30 seconds or less using Flipgrid. And we've done kind of bracket challenges before where we've competed to see who had the top book talk. But kids just like listening to other kids talk about books too. So it serves that purpose as well. We offer lots of different reading challenges throughout the year. Some of them are very open-ended where kids can design their own goal and then work toward that goal. Or there might be something very specific, like during Picture Book Month, having them read a book out of each section of the picture book section. Women's History Month, reading different biographies, historical fiction, books by women authors. Jean Luen Yang, when he was the laureate for children's literature, he issued this Read Without Walls challenge, where you read a book about a character who doesn't look like you, a book about a topic you don't know much about, and a book in a format that you don't normally read for fun. So that was a nice challenge to issue to kids because it kind of pushed them to try some things that were different from what they typically read. And just a couple of weeks ago, we held a one-page comic contest to celebrate Lincoln Purse, who writes the Big Nate books, who came to visit our school. But we had kids just create their own one-page comic, and we put them all over the windows of the library. Were totally full of one-page comics, and we took the top winners, and they all got an autographed copy of the book. I was speaking with some of you earlier that I've started doing a lunch book club, trying to share some especially diverse stories with kids. Right now I have kids reading the book Ghost Boys by Joel Parker Rhodes, which is kind of a middle grade version of The Hate You Give. And we're having some very important conversation together. It's a 5th grade group, but we've read several other titles this year, like A Mall Unbound. We've read Insignificant Events in the Life of a Cactus, The Seventh Most Important Thing. But every one has sparked a lot of conversation around lunch, and I read that aloud to the kids, and sometimes they will take the book home and read on their own as well. We do have a lot of in-person author visits here at Barrow, thanks to our collaboration with Avid Bookshop. And when we do, I try to make it kind of an event that people have connection with. We usually do projects around it. You heard about the one-page comic contest, but last year we had Lauren Long and Matt De La Pena come, and every grade created some type of project to connect with the visit. So that by the time they came, every kid knew the book, and they knew who Lauren and Matt were, and the behavior at the assembly was wonderful, having 400 kids all together in a room. And I think a lot of it had to do with just their investment in the book. When authors come, I try, especially if classes or grade levels are not coming, I try to invite the author to stop by and visit those classes, like pre-K, who can't always sit still for the whole author visit. Sometimes the author will pop into their classroom for just a moment to read with them. Every year we try to have a couple of days where we bring in guest readers, whether it's during Black History Month or during Read Across America, and have people from the community go into classrooms and read. And they take books from our library and read them in the classroom and then bring them back here. Sean Hinger at Clark Middle does this amazing event called the Reading Tailgate, where she invites men from the community to come in and meet with middle school boys. And they share kind of their personal careers, but more importantly, they share their reading lives. They talk about things that they're reading as men, and they bring books to give out to the kids, and they do that over lunch. All right, so a few kind of beyond school walls things I want to share, and things that you might get involved in if you're not already, is every year in September, there's International Dot Day, which is a great day to connect with other schools and read the book, The Dot, and create things together. In February, which is already over for this year, is World Read Aloud Day. And every year there's this massive schedule that's posted in Google Docs. I always share it. Shannon Miller, who's another librarian in Iowa, shares it. And you can post your schedule and find other places to connect with and read books together. And we always create a huge map of all of our connections so that kids can see how far places are that we've connected with. And they make those connections with people and realize there's people out in the world beyond Athens, Georgia, that are doing some of the same things that we're doing. I'm gonna skip by a few things because we're running out of time. I've also been thinking a lot over the past few years about student access to books outside of school. And one of the projects that I did a couple of years ago was wrote a grant to buy lots and lots of books that kids were able to come in and create a little home library to take with them. So they decorated boxes, they stuffed the box with books, and then they took that home to be their little reading library over the summer. In Athens, we have a great organization called Books for Keeps that serves almost all of our elementary schools now. And they bring in hundreds and hundreds of books, and kids get to choose 12 books to take home for the summer and keep. There's a great program in Charlottesville, Virginia that's called Books on Bikes. And it's a librarian who has a library on a bicycle, and she pedals around to the different communities. We actually have somebody in Athens who's doing that too. It's a classroom teacher, right?
Some of our third grade teachers.
Yeah, at Chase Street. There's a teacher who did a big fundraiser to create a library on a bike and pedal around to communities. So Books on Bikes is an organization you can reach out to for more information of how you could start a program like that in your area. But one of the things I try to do just for myself as a librarian is to always surround myself with diverse stories that are very different from my own. I try to read stories that are about people who don't look like me so that I can understand the world better. I also listen to a lot of different podcasts like The Moth and StoryCorps. So I invite you to have some conversations today about reading in your schools and to think about how you are empowering the readers in your school and beyond. Thank you. All right, and I did want to say at the very end of the presentation, there is a little gift from Capstone Publishers. If you have a Capstone account, you can put in this little code and you'll get $50 in rewards points from them. And that slide is there, so you can look back at that later. All right, so Carrie, I'll turn it back over to you for a moment.
Thank you, Andy. I know I got some new ideas to share out myself. We really appreciate you taking the time to put that together and then share with us today. And I am so impressed that you were able to work through 91 slides in 20 minutes. So that's good job. Now we're going to take a few minutes. Tammy Privet approached me back in October. And she was talking about getting together to do a GLMA update. And so, Tammy, are you ready to share your update?
Yes, we're ready.
Okay.
Okay. So back on the elementary agenda, open the link here.
Do you want to screen share it with
yes.
watching?
Hi, Kristen.
As long as they can hear me, it's fine.
Well, if you do want to screen share, you just go back there and then go over to the side. Right there.
Okay.
And then get back.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to go through this pretty quickly so that we don't take a whole lot of time. First thing is that for those of you who are not familiar with GLMA, it's Georgia Library Media Association. We are a statewide organization that advocates strongly for the profession of media specialists throughout the state. And there's a lot of really good reasons to join. The first and foremost is advocacy. I don't know how many of you are from areas where your funding has been cut. Maybe you've worked, there are counties very close to here that do not require certified media specialists in their schools. There's many of us who have had years, maybe you're still in a situation where we don't have staff support. It's just us in a school of 1,000 kids. GLMA does a lot of lobbying and advocating for our profession to protect our profession so that we are not pushed out the door as people make budget cuts and they see our relevance. We also offer a lot of professional learning. There's Summer Institute. There's a Twitter chat that goes on, webinars, article, as well as a professional learning network, just meeting and getting together with others in our profession and just working together. So I want to show you the GLMA website. First thing that comes up, well, this is on Summer Institute. but there are lots of great information on here. Summer Institute applications are now open. It's a 2-day conference. If you haven't been, it is fantastic. It's every summer in Peachtree City, kind of middle of the state. There are advocacy resources. There's the SLEI, the SLAY that Risa did a whole session on in the fall. There's a number of awards. And for me, the importance of awards is to bring attention to what we do, to let others outside of the Media Center know what a media specialist does, and to celebrate our accomplishments and have a platform to share those with others. There's also information about Summer Institute. And if you join, there's more resources that are behind here for members. Lots of professional development type things. Also within our Risa district, we have developed a Google Drive. So if you are attending and part of this, I will share that with you so that we can upload things that are going on just in our own libraries, presentations that we've shared at different places so that we have a common area to share all those things within our own district. Some regional events just to be aware of: Summer Institute, the Georgia School Library Ed Camp, which is, I believe, March 9th. I don't know if you've registered for that, but if you haven't, that's a really great opportunity to get together with other media specialists. There is also a webinar on March 29th that for GLMA that really I think will be great. And then there's a Twitter chat. If you look up GA Lib Chat on Twitter, then you can find Get Connected. I believe they meet once a month on Mondays. And unfortunately, I have another commitment on Monday night, so I haven't been able to participate in that, but I've heard really wonderful, wonderful things about it. So those are just some of the updates that I would want you to know about GLMA. I can't really open up questions to the floor, but if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. I will answer any questions you have about GLMA. And we will go back to the rest of our agenda. The next thing on our agenda is speed dating. And Carrie, were we doing speed dating? Was I introducing it to everyone, or are we introducing it at our individual schools at this point?
I think we could do it at our own schools if that works for you all.
That works great.
Okay. Real quick, I wanted to mention at the bottom of the agendas for each location is an extend section, and everyone has commenting rights on this document. So if you have something that you'd like to share with others, some type of resource, if you insert a comment right there, I'll approve it and it'll go in. So just feel free to share anything down there that you want to throughout the day. So thank you, Tammy. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Dana. Thank you, Marianne. Can you unmute for just a second? All right, Dana, can you unmute?
Here we are.
All right, so the high school folks, you all give us a little cheer. Woo! All right, elementary school folks, give us a little cheer. All right.
Come on, guys. We're middle school.
Okay,
ready?
All right, middle school folks, give a little cheer. All right, y'all have fun today, and I hope we learned some really great stuff about books. So see y'all later.
Bye.
Bye.
I think we were the one.
I think so too. All right, let me stop this broadcast here.